The doctor told me, he's like, if they wouldn't have picked me up, I probably would have died. They said I wouldn't have lasted another day just because the rhabdo would have killed me. What are you doing? I was like, you got a wife and children, and you're going to die out here, and no one's going to know. Your wife and your kids are going to think that you just left them.
Hey, so I was told to ask you a question from Dandy Callum. He's been blowing me up. He said to ask you about being lost out in the wilderness and having a near-death experience.
Oh, no. Me, a friend of mine, another friend of mine and his wife, we went camping in the Ozark National Forest. And it's March, and it was cold. It was like, during the day, it was like 35. At night, it was like 22. It was pretty cold. And we're camping. We had a fire and all this. And it was late, and everybody went to bed. And I've been drinking, of course. And I didn't want to go to bed. I wanted to drink some more, and I needed more firewood. So I went to get more firewood. And if you've ever been in a real forest, you can't really walk like you see in the movies. I mean, there's trees and all this stuff. And I went off, and I must have fell. I don't remember. And when I woke up, it was kind of daylight. It was still dark, but it was daylight, and my head hurt, and I was bleeding. I busted my head open. I was like, "What the?" I'm still pretty drunk, and I was medicated too. I was taking a lot of pills because the VA was giving me antidepressants. I was taking Xanax and my pain medicine for my injuries. Stupid mix, but it was one of the, like, now I can look at it and go, "What are you're so irresponsible." Because I had a family, I had children. Just irresponsible. I don't look at it that way because I was so miserable. I was so broken, but I didn't really recognize it. Anyway, and I'm hurt. I'm like, damn, I don't know where I'm at, and I didn't. So I just started walking, trying to find my way out. Right, I had on a pair of like hiking pants, some tennis shoes. I had a t-shirt and a windbreaker jacket. That's all I had, and I'm walking, and daylight comes up. I still have no idea where I'm at. There's no sign of anything. And I come through this stream, probably like 20 feet across. So I try to cross it. I went and there's like a big rock sticking out of the water. So I was going to like put my foot and jump across. Well, I put my foot, it slipped, and I fell chest first on this boulder. And you could hear like crunch, and I could hear it in my head. I was like, like knocked the wind at me, and I fell in the water, which was freezing cold. So I think that kept me conscious. Otherwise, I think it would have knocked me out. And I'm like, oh, and I get to the shore. And I'm like, can't hardly breathe. Like, oh, I'm like, hurt. I know I was hurt. I thought I broke some ribs. Is what I thought. And I get up and I pull my shirt up, and I got this, like, it looked like a bent eggplant going like from the top of where my penis is up off to the left side of my belly button. And I was just like, oh, that ain't good. And I just tucked my shirt in. I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep going. I really couldn't breathe right. So I kept walking, and I come to this place that said, it looked like it was old. It said you used to have inner tubes for rent or something, which didn't make any sense because the water is not inner tube deep or whatever, right? And then off to the distance, there was not a cabin, like a improvised building, but you could tell somebody actually took time to build it. And then there were you ever see like the little plastic soldiers they put up on the ground for like target practice, like little plastic army men, but they're like hollow. There were several of those around. And I was like, that's weird. I was like, hey, well, maybe there's some people around here, right? So I start walking, and it gets weirder and weirder. And then I see some vehicles that I've never seen before, people in uniform I've never seen before. And I'm like, listen, man, I said, I'm hurt. I said, can you help me? No one will talk to me. No one will speak to me. I'm being dead serious. And it was so weird because I'm like, hey, man, I said, I'm a retired military guy. I said, I'm hurt. I said, I need some help. And no one would talk to me. It was the weirdest thing ever because I'd never seen people in uniforms like that before. And I'd never seen the vehicles like that before. And there was a lot of people out there. It was odd. And I don't know if it was, I'm being dead serious, brother. On my children's life. And So I'm like, whatever. I keep walking and walking and walking, and I try to cross the nursery, slip and fall, hit my head again. And I'm just, at this point, I'm so frustrated. And I'm just like, so I keep walking and I'm going up and down these hills and all this stuff. Night comes, I'm freezing to death. It's so cold. So I'm like trying to cover myself with leaves. And then I start wheezing. I can like just, I'm like, that's not good. Daylight comes up. I keep walking. And usually when you go anywhere in the forest, you can find trash, signs of people, right? I didn't see any trash. There was nothing. And I was like, man, this is weird. So day two goes by, night goes by. So I'm out there the second night, and I don't know. I didn't know until after I got back. It was like 27 degrees, and I'm trying to stay. I'm trying to stay warm. I've got these leaves covered off me. I'm just jackhammering. I'm like freezing. I'm wet, and I tell you, it's funny as I'm laying there and I hear this like growling. I'm like, I was thinking either like I think it was a mountain lion or hogs. I'm not kidding you. I started laughing. I was like, "Oh, this is great." I was like, "I'm gonna die out here getting eaten by a mountain lion, right, or a hog, right?" Well, it was my stomach growling. It was my stomach growling, but I wasn't hungry. But it was just growling. It was so weird. I started. It was kind of a moment of levity. And if you ever been lost, like there's a thing called infrasound, and you start hearing music. You think you're hearing people talking. I kept hearing music, like all kinds of. I was like, man, must be a bar or something around here, but it wasn't. It was just the sound of the forest, and like I would stop and I'd pray, and I was saved then, but I believed in God, but I was not practicing at all. At all. I mean, it was just, but I was praying, and I would talk to myself, and I'd pray, and I'd stop, and then the wheezing started getting really worse, and I knew something was wrong, and my legs started hurting really bad, getting really stiff, and my feet were like, I took my shoes off one time, and I almost couldn't get my shoes back on. My feet were so swollen, and like I was trying to come up the hill, and I slipped and fell, and I like came upside down, and I was hanging upside down on the hill, and I almost started crying. I was just like, I was so frustrated. It was just like I couldn't. And I thought I'd follow the water, I'd follow the stream down, and I'd find my way out. I'd fall to a stream, it would just stop to like rocks, and I have to turn around. And this went on for like 3 days. And I finally I get up this hill, and I slip and fall again. And I'm laying there just in agony because I knew something was really wrong then because like I couldn't breathe. And every time I thought I had broken ribs or broke my sternum. And I knew I was sick because I couldn't, I was like getting that really bad wheezing. And I started coughing, which made everything else worse because, and I'd start coughing and almost pass out. I'd have to sit down, and then I'd pray, and I keep walking. And I came to the top of this hill. It's like a old dirt road that hadn't been used in a while. And I was like, oh, thank God it's a road. So I just like, which way do I go? And I thought to myself, right way of life. That's what I said to myself. And I just followed the road for a while longer, and I came to a dirt road, like an approved dirt road. And the same thing, it went two ways. And I'm like, all right, let's go right. And I started walking, and my legs stopped working. Like they wouldn't bend anymore. They were like super stiff. I'm just like, oh, it's like this isn't good. And I couldn't breathe. And I found a old Bud Light bottle, but it was the metal one. And I hadn't had anything to drink for the whole time. And there was like a puddle, and I found it bottom. I took the lid off, and I bent down to scoop the water up, and my legs didn't bend. I fell face first into the road, and I started laughing because I had to look ridiculous because I just like fell forward and like just like probably if I didn't laugh, I'd have started crying. I was so frustrated, and I was just like, and then when was it the second night or the third part or third morning when I was coughing, I almost passed out. And I came to, I was like sitting there, I was so ashamed. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, you got a wife and children, and you're gonna die out here, and no one's gonna know. Your wife and your kids are gonna think that you just left them. That's what they, and I was like, the shame I had, plus my background, like in special operations and all this. I shouldn't have been lost. I shouldn't have been in this position to start with. I totally put myself in the position just by being stupid, legitimately stupid. And it hit me just like I had so much shame that it was almost unbearable. But I just kept one foot after the other, and I rolled over and I got up and I started walking down the road, and it started getting really bad. I started going, I couldn't get a breath, and I was getting really dizzy. And here comes a truck up the road. I was like, and yeah, I had blood all over my face, dude. I looked terrible. I had thorns all in my fingers, like in my I had thorns everywhere. And this guy stops and he's like, "Partner, you look like you need some help." And I couldn't hardly talk. I said, I need to go to the hospital. And his wife got out of the truck. She's like, "Come here." And she like got me in the truck. She took her jacket off, gave me her jacket. She gave me her Diet Coke. And they called the ambulance on the drive. And they're sitting there trying to talk to me. And they're being super, super nice. And I'm fighting everything not to break down crying and not pass out. I felt so bad. I thought I was dying. I ain't gonna lie. And they're being so sweet talking to me. And they asked me if I needed anything, and I was like, I wanted an orange soda for some reason. And she's on the phone with the dispatch trying to get an ambulance, and they're like, where we were at, it'd have been faster for them to drive me to the hospital. So on the way, she stopped at a convenience store and got me an orange soda, which is just crazy, awesome people. And they get me to the hospital, and they wheel me in. And my brother, my oldest brother, I ain't seen him since I was probably 16. He left for the Air Force when I was a kid because he wouldn't get out of the house because of our parents, right? And he's in right in the front of the hospital where the emergency room is, and I'm like, trying to talk to me, and I'm looking at him like I didn't know who he was at first. It was like because it didn't make any sense. Why would he be there? You know, I'm like, he's like John, it's Tim. And I'm like, I was like, what are you? What? He's like, it's Tim. And it kind of hit me. I was like, what are you doing? He drove from Texas because my mom called him and said I was missing. And they found him. So he drove up from Texas and he met me there. And they get me in the hospital. And I'm like jackhammering. I'm like really messed up. And they did a CT on me. Of course, had a concussion. And they did a CT on my abdomen. They had a bruised duodenum, whatever that is. I guess that's where your intestines connect or something. And they think I broke a bunch of the cartilage in my chest, which makes sense. I've had that before when your ribs are terrible, and I had rhabdomyolysis. You know, we usually get that like CrossFit people get it, and what happens is like you when you overexert your muscles to a point, they break down, it gets in your bloodstream, and it clogs your kidneys and it kill you. And of course, I was hypothermic, all this kind of stuff, and I was just a mess, dude. And the doctor told me, he's like, if they wouldn't have picked me up, I probably would have died. They said I wouldn't have lasted another day just because the rhabdo would have killed me. And of course, now I'm sitting there miserable already. And I'm sitting there now, it's hitting me again. What a just dumb decision I made. And then when my kids came in to see me and my wife, I apologized. I was just like, the shame I felt like was just right now, even just senseless, selfish too. No, selfish is probably the better word. Like I was just doing whatever it could to kill the pain without really addressing it, I guess. And the medications didn't help either. Like it just didn't help. Like the stuff the VA was giving you. Like I'm convinced that they don't try to help you. I think they want you to kill yourself so they don't have to pay you anymore. I honestly believe that.